by putting his chips into the middle and then taking them back at the end of the hand.
So a good old combo comes together again. Ferguson and ace-9, and Jesus is more than just all right. Welcome back inside the Rio, and there again, Jeff Wiedenhoff still hanging his head over his abrupt elimination.
I can't tell you how many times I've misread my cards, Lon. My second marriage, for instance.
All right, we continue now. 8-handed. This $1,500 no-limit final table. David Bach gives it up. Action to Mike No, and he folds. Melvin Jones looks at 7-6 offsuit, and they go into the muck. This is his first World Series of Poker tournament. Theo Tran, Jack-7.
Theo Tran doesn't have sunglasses, but he's apparently unaware we're in the middle of the desert.
A raise to $110,000. Ace-Jack for Chris Ferguson. He's got a bunch of new chips now to play with.
The key to Jesus is that his blood pressure is 0/0.
He's reaching for chips. It's not his lucky ace-9, but he'll play the suited ace-jack.
Well, the key for Theo now is to make less movement than Jesus does. That's a tough one, Lon.
A wise thing when you're in the middle of the desert, too. They go heads up, and the jack hits both players. Ferguson with the advantage.
Theo's got a lot of little ticks and movements. Jesus has no pulse.
Theo also has kicker problems, but he's going to bet $165,000. Transposse includes new bracelet winner Nanad Medic on the left and two-time bracelet winner Jeff Madsen.
Theo will wait for Jesus. Jesus will make no call before it's time.
He will make the call, though. I guess he's going on faith that Theo does not have the queen. Turn card, king of clubs, and that gives Ferguson a royal flush draw. Theo Tran.
Check.
Checks this time.
Ferguson says it's important to stay relaxed. The way you don't give out information to opponents is not to worry about it, he says.
Both check to the river. And it is another club, and Ferguson with that check mark as he hit his nut flush. Theo Tran. Checks it.
See, Jesus doesn't look any differently there than if he were facing murder charges.
Ferguson with the best hand goes for $400,000.
Look, he's the human still life.
Theo looking at 2 overcards plus possible straight and possible flush on the board.
Well, if Theo lays his pair of jacks down, he can get out of here without too much damage.
And he will fold it. So Ferguson rakes in another pot. No surprise, really. Chris's skills have stood the test of time against fields large and small.
When I won the main event, there were 512 entrants. I had to beat 511 people. This year, in this event, there are over 3,900 players. Just making the money, there were still 380 players left. So it's like, after making the money, I still have to win a main event. When I'm at the table, I'm really serious. I'm really concentrated on what I'm doing. I'm just trying to make the best decision at every point in the hand. You know, sometimes I see poker players that kind of give up. They're not really used to playing in such large fields with almost 4,000 players. They lose a big stack, they lose 90% of the chips, and they just basically move in blind with anything. They've given up. They've mentally given up. I never give up, and obviously that's worked well for me.
Chris Ferguson is your champion.
Having a little bit of patience really pays off in poker.
As Chris says, he doesn't give up. In this tournament, he had only 7,000 left in chips when the blinds were 4 and 8,000. He went all in from the small blind with 10-9 against Ace-King. He won that one, and he hasn't looked back.
7 players to go before Chris can claim bracelet number 6. And one of the men he has to go through is Grant Hinkle. Hinkle with Ace-King offsuit.
Grant had a flight going back to Kansas City the first night of this event. He then changed it to the next night, then the following morning, then to that night, and now he's changed it a 4th time because he made the final table.
His brother Blair in the red sweatshirt and their mom Lynn. Blair is a full-time player. Hinkle raises it to $125,000. Over to Theo Tran at his 3rd World Series of Poker final table. Ace-7 suited.
Theo lives in Las Vegas, so he probably just walked here.
He makes the call from the big blind for $75,000 more, and these two will go heads up. Hinkle with the advantage with that ace-king. The flop is 4, deuce, queen. It misses both. Hinkle still leads with the ace-king.
I'm really concerned about these flops this year, Lon. They're just not good.
Tran checks, and Hinkle checks the flop as well. All right, now the turn card. Hinkle still ahead. 5 of hearts, and the same gut shot straight draw for each player now.
Well, if you want it, you can have that pot right now. Either player. It looks like Theo decides he might want it.
Theo reaching for chips, and he makes it 175,000, a little more than half the pot.
Call.
And a call from Grant Hinkle.
I didn't expect that. It could be a fancy call to bluff move, or maybe he's just trying to impress his mom.
So Tran tried to buy it, but Hinkle was having none of it. And now the river card is an 8 of hearts. Hinkle earns the check mark with that ace-king that he started with.
Well, neither player has much of anything. If deuces were wild, they both have a pair of aces.
Tran checks his weak ace. And now Hinkle. And he is going to move all in. Wow.
Well, he was calling the bluff, and he might have been bluffing off all his chips, except for the fact that he's bluffing with the best hand. And Grant has gotten lucky here. I think he's trying to get Theo off of a marginal hand, maybe a small pair. But Tran doesn't even have that.
Wow. And Theo Tran forced to lay it down after the river again. And the Hinkle contingent loves to see that.
Lynn Hinkle is happy that her son is out of harm's way.
That was so scary.
Well, No Limit is often about playing your opponent more than the cards. Good stuff from Grant Hinkle there.
The 2008 World Series of Poker, presented by Milwaukee's Best Light. Bracelet event.
Welcome back to the Rio, where Jeff Wiedenhoff still can't shake off misreading his cards.
I was so nervous.
Now, don't worry, Jeff. Everybody has done something embarrassing at the poker table, as we found out in this edition of The Nuts.
Sometimes I'm watching a show on television that I'm on, and I'm like, oh, God. Everything's bigger and better, baby.
I can remember spilling food all over myself. Yeah, I think it was spaghetti and meatballs.
What's the most embarrassing thing? I don't know, playing in a diaper wasn't really that cool.
The thing with Greg Raymer, I mean, I was just having fun. Blah, 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 blah.
I got big cojones. You got little cojones.
Of course, I never thought in the world he would ever win this tournament.
Yeah!
You had to feel for him because you knew he was going to look like an idiot on national television.
No!
I don't know that it's like one thing, but there is a thing that happens at a poker table. And that's when you go, you know, I've got a heart flush. And you turn over like the jack of diamonds and the 3 of clubs. You know, you don't even have one heart in your hand, and you needed 2.
If I can do all the dumb things I did and still come in to see you guys every year, then I guess I don't embarrass easily.
I've seen many people sleeping at the poker table.
The most embarrassing thing that's happened to me at the poker table is losing.
I'm never at the poker table long enough to be embarrassed, Lon. Jeff Wiedenhoff should be proud of how well he played to get here.
Well said, Norman. Good job, Jeff. 8 players remain. To our champion tonight, over $831,000. Grant Hinkle just got a bit richer in that last hand, and action will be on Grant. And he will not play this one. Over to David Bach, former professional bowler, picks up the 7-6.
Well, I'm impressed with the bowl.